In the modern-day Altai mountain range, an untouched forest known as the Hallows thrived. People of this area were grieved by whispers and legends, which swirled like a mist and clung to the towering trees. But these were no ordinary whispers. They were the sinister call of a malevolent spirit, one that cloaked the woodlands in darkness and feasted upon souls. In the tiny village of Lagorna, just outside the Hallows, lived Alkira, a quiet girl with an insatiable curiosity and love of stories. Alkira would often gaze upon the thickened tree line that bordered the Hallows. She grew up being cautioned by the villagers not to enter the forest for any reason. But as she grew older, she began to hear the forest's inviting whispers. These whispers were enchanting and melodic, an invitation, a calling from within the thick. Alkira learned quickly that no others around her heard the whispers. She ignored the issue as though it was a trick of her mind, or perhaps a sound she heard when she dreamed. Late one summer night, Alkira began to hear her name being called, a sweet, harmonious tone inviting her towards the edge of the tree-lined forest. Like a spell cast over her, she could not resist the call. As her body started making its way to the tree line, a boy named Garik saw her. She was edging towards the Hallows, and he reached her before she crossed into the dark abyss. He grabbed her arm and turned her towards him and yelled, "Alkira, why are you going in there?" She didn't answer. "What's going on with you, Alkira?" Her eyes unfocused and lost. "Alkira, Alkira." He shook her as his worry began to build. Slowly she turned her gaze toward the boy, and his face came into focus. What happened, she thought. The reality of where she was abruptly struck her. I was walking down to the river to fetch water. How did I end up here?" she asked aloud. "No," Garik protested. "You were going towards the Hallows." Alkida simply smiled at the boy, her outward appearance betraying none of the icy dread that gripped her heart. She feigned nonchalance, a masquerade that would deceive most. Yet looking deeply into her eyes, Garik glimpsed a fraction of the panic and fear she masked with deception. The truth plain to see, showing a haunting reality she couldn't escape. Deciding not to voice his concerns, Garik escorted Alkira back to her house in the village and made his way to the village elders. The village elder was a wise, weathered man named Eldrick. Garik informed him of what had transpired. The village elder's expression was a stony mask. However, Eldrick had already known as the time was nearing. A pattern had emerged throughout the life of the elder, and he was deeply concerned. He gathered all the village elders together for a meeting under the ancient oak tree at the center of Lagorna. The air grew heavy with tension as they discussed Alkira's perilous encounter with the Hallows. Eldrick addressed the gathering, his voice filled with grave concern. "My friends," he began with a solemn voice, "we have long known the dangers that dwell within the Hallows. The guardian spirit that resides there is not to be trifled with, and it seems our young Alkira has attracted its gaze. She is being drawn in by its malevolent call, as it does once every 10 years to the purest of us in Lagorna. Murmurs of fear and worry spread among the elders. They knew the consequences of answering the call and venturing into the Hallows, as those who did were never seen again. Garik stepped forward, recounting the eerie encounter with Elkira. His voice quivered with unease as he spoke of her trance-like state and her inexplicable pull to the Hallows. The elders exchanged concerned glances, their minds reliving similar situations of the past. Eldrick nodded gravely and continued. It is clear that Elkira is in grave danger, and the Hallows have taken an interest in her. We must act swiftly to protect her from the sinister grasp of the guardian spirit. We shall form a watchful guard to ensure she does not stray too close to that cursed forest again. Days turned into weeks, and Elkira's ordeal worsened. She found herself going towards the Hallows, especially when she thought no one was around to witness her trance-like state. The sinister whispers grew stronger, their enchanting melodies luring her deeper into the dark heart of the forest. She began to lose sleep, haunted by dreams of shadowy figures and ghostly voices. The elders did their best to keep Elkira away from the Hallows, but the influence was relentless. Each day it seemed as if part of her soul was being slowly consumed. Elkira's once vibrant spirit began to wither as she became a mere shadow of herself. One fateful evening, as the moon cast an eerie glow, Elkira could resist the call no longer. She unknowingly ventured into the forbidden forest, guided by the haunting whispers. It was a moment of surrender, a desperate attempt at sleep, when the Hallows' malevolence ensnared her senses. From the moment Elkira stepped into the forbidden woods, an oppressive darkness descended. The self-possessed forest seemed to come alive, its shadows twisting and whispering ominous secrets. Thorny vines reached out to ensnare her, and the gnarled branches of the trees clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers. Seemingly unfazed but mesmerized by the melody, Elkira obeyed the call. Rhythmically walking to the summons, Elkira finally reached an opening in the forest, a small, densely enclosed meadow with a thick, velvety green moss laid delicately shrouding the ground. The melodic calls suddenly stopped. She awoke and could see clearly as the area was alight by the elegant blue rays of the moon. As her physical senses began to return, and she realized the exhaustion she carried, the forest provided a bed of moss that looked enticing and ethereal as the undeniable call of sleep invited her to lay down in the lush meadow. She willingly collapsed to the bed on the floor as the call coerced her to freely surrender. As her eyes began to close for the final time and sleep shrouded her mind, the Hallows came alive. Throughout the meadow, webbed clusters of mushrooms began to give off an eerie glow, releasing unseen spores into the air that could be absorbed by all living things. The Hallows, long thought to be the resting place of a malicious spirit, showed its true face. The webbed clusters of mushrooms found throughout the forest, extremities for which the Hallows could interact with the world. As Elkira released her final breath of life and the soul made to escape, a shadow descended. Spores attached to the soul and dragged it to the forest floor. The Hallows had awakened and enjoyed its feast.